I sat in my husband's car, listening to a recording of my mother-in-law, Carol, tell her bridge club that my children were feral little monsters, and that I was a neglectful mother, all while she was packing for the $2,000 Christmas trip to Hawaii that I had secretly bought her. My name is Chloe, and for 10 years, I have tolerated Carol's endless passive aggression and thinly veiled criticisms. She's the kind of MIL who smiles to your face while stabbing you in the back with a perfectly manicured nail. This year, my husband, David, insisted we do something nice for his mother for Christmas, despite my reservations. He wanted to send her on a luxury vacation, something she had always dreamed of. I, being the one with the better-paying job, ended up paying for the entire thing. A $2,000 all-inclusive package to Maui, complete with first-class flights and a beachfront resort. I had planned to surprise her with the tickets on Christmas Eve, but David's mother has a habit of leaving her phone on speaker when she's talking to her friends, and I had, perhaps not so accidentally, installed a discreet voice-activated recording app on her phone months ago for security reasons, after some suspicious activity on her bank account. I forgot about it until David mentioned she was having her bridge club over on December 23rd, the same day I was preparing the final itinerary for her trip. A cold prickle went down my spine. I had a feeling. That afternoon, while I was wrapping gifts, I decided to check the recording app. The density of the audio was horrifying. I heard Carol's voice, clear as a bell, describing my 6-year-old daughter, Lily, as unruly and lacking discipline, and my 4-year-old son, Ben, as a complete menace to society. She claimed I spent all day on my laptop instead of actually parenting them, and that David was too blind to see what a disastrous wife he had married. She even went so far as to describe Lily's recent meltdown over a dropped ice cream cone as proof that she was going to be a juvenile delinquent. The rage that surged through me was a physical wave. I wasn't just listening to gossip. I was listening to a malicious slander campaign against my children and my character, orchestrated by the woman I was about to send to paradise. The sheer audacity, the unmitigated gall of her sitting in her living room, accepting my financial generosity while publicly assassinating my parenting, was beyond anything I had ever experienced. My hands clenched around the steering wheel as I drove home, the recording playing on a loop in my head. Every condescending look, every backhanded compliment, every concerned suggestion she had ever given me over the years suddenly crystallized into a coherent pattern of psychological warfare. I wasn't just mad, I was finished. David, bless his oblivious heart, was beaming when I got home. "Mom's going to be so surprised, Chloe. This is going to be the best Christmas ever for her." He had no idea the evil ingredient I had just uncovered, or the holiday plans I was about to incinerate. The tickets, the itinerary, the leis, they were all sitting on the kitchen counter, waiting to be delivered. But I knew in that moment that Carol wouldn't be seeing Hawaii. She would be seeing the consequences of her own venomous tongue. I kept the recording a secret from David for 2 hours, simmering in a silent, seething rage while he excitedly talked about Carol's reaction. I let him babble about how much she deserved this trip, how hard she had worked, how much she loved the kids, despite her old-fashioned ways. Every word was like a fresh stab wound. Finally, as we were sitting down to a quiet Christmas Eve dinner, I couldn't take it anymore. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "David, I just found out that your mother has been telling her bridge club that our children are feral monsters and that I'm a neglectful mother. She said Lily is going to be a juvenile delinquent and Ben is a menace to society. And she said you're too blind to see what a disastrous wife you married." David's fork clattered to his plate. He stammered, "No, Chloe, she would never say that. She loves them." I didn't argue. I pulled out my phone and played the recording. I watched his face turn from disbelief to horror as Carol's voice filled our quiet dining room, dripping with venom and false concern. He listened to the entire, unedited 10-minute rant. When it was over, he was white as a sheet, staring at the empty wall behind me. I can't believe it," he whispered, his voice broken. She actually said that about Lily?" I simply nodded. "Yes, while I was paying for her $2,000 Christmas trip to Hawaii." The density of the revelation hit him like a physical blow. He buried his face in his hands. He wanted to believe the best in his mother, but the evidence was undeniable. "So," I continued, my voice cold and precise, "I've made a decision. Your mother will not be receiving a $2,000 trip to Hawaii. I just canceled it." David's head snapped up. "What? Chloe, you can't! That's too far! It's Christmas!" "Too far?" I countered, my voice rising. "She slandered our children. She publicly humiliated me. She undermined our parenting. And she did it all while benefiting from my generosity. Is that too far, David? Because I think letting her get away with it and rewarding her with paradise would be too far." I pulled out my phone again and showed him the confirmation email from the travel agency. "Cancellation processed. Refund issued to original payment method. The tickets, the itinerary, the hotel booking, all gone, evaporated into the digital ether." David was furious. He started screaming that I was spiteful and vengeful and that I was ruining Christmas for his mother. He actually tried to say that her old age was making her confused. But the recording was too clear. Her voice was articulate, precise, and maliciously intentional. He couldn't deny the malice behind her words. I told him that if he wanted his mother to have a trip, he could pay for it himself. The silence that followed was thick with unspoken resentment. The fight lasted until 2 a.m., but I didn't budge. My children's emotional well-being was not up for negotiation, and neither was my self-respect. The next morning, Christmas Day, was an icy silence between David and me. He was still furious, but he knew I wouldn't back down. We drove to Carol's house for the family gathering, a heavy, unspoken tension filling the car. When we arrived, Carol was beaming, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. She made a point of hugging David extra long, giving me a dismissive nod. She clearly thought I was still her cash cow. The gift-opening ceremony began, and Carol was showered with expensive presents from her other children. Jewelry, designer scarves, the usual. Then it was my turn to give her a gift. I had wrapped a small, symbolic box with a single piece of paper inside. Carol opened it, her eyes glittering. She expected a voucher, a card, something hinting at the trip. She pulled out the paper. It was a printout of the cancellation confirmation from the travel agency. Her face went from anticipation to utter bewilderment, then to absolute incandescent rage. "What is this? Chloe, what have you done?" she shrieked, her voice echoing through the festive living room. "This is my trip, my Hawaii trip." I simply looked at her. "There is no trip, Carol. Not from me, anyway. I canceled it." The room went silent. All eyes turned to me. David was staring at the floor, refusing to meet my gaze. "Why would you do such a monstrous thing?" she screamed, her face contorting. "On Christmas Day of all days, you're evil!" I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Carol's voice, clear and cold, filled the room. Feral little monsters, neglectful mother, disastrous wife, juvenile delinquent. The reaction was instantaneous. David's siblings, who had always ignored Carol's jabs, finally heard the full extent of her venom. My sister-in-law, a mother herself, actually gasped. Carol tried to snatch the phone, but I held it away. "This is why, Carol," I said, my voice steady. "Because I don't pay $2,000 for someone to slander my children and undermine my marriage. If you want a trip, David can pay for it, but not with my money." Carol launched into a full-blown meltdown, accusing me of spying on her and ruining her life. She threw the crumpled cancellation notice at my face, but the damage was done. The other family members were looking at her with a mixture of shock and disgust. David, finally finding his voice, stood up. "Mom," he said, his voice quiet but firm, "you were completely out of line. You need to apologize to Chloe and to our children." Carol just scoffed, storming out of the room, still screaming about her lost vacation. She hasn't spoken to me since, and David and I have had some very difficult conversations about how he plans to handle his mother going forward. He still thinks I was too extreme, but for the first time, he isn't defending her. I told him that if she ever speaks about our children like that again, I will remove them from her life permanently. This Christmas, Carol didn't get a trip to Hawaii, but she did get a painful lesson in accountability. And I got the priceless gift of knowing I finally stood up for my kids. So what do you think? Was I justified in canceling her trip and exposing her? Or should I have just ignored her venom for the sake of holiday peace? If your MIL gossiped about your kids while accepting your gifts, would you cut her off or let her get away with it? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you think Carol deserved it, and make sure to subscribe for more daily Reddit tales. See you in the next one.